Hello, and a shout out to those who are joining us on Facebook Live. If we've not met, my name is Eric, and I'd like to welcome you to the Tactical Pastor Podcast and the Modern Day Preparedness Small Group. Put your hands together and let them know you're happy that they're online. Thank you guys for being here. This is our third episode, and tonight we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about the subject of functional fitness. We've been leading into that as part of the group in the context of preparedness. And this week we actually had a little bit of a sad example of why one should be prepared. We've been talking about events that might happen, and in the natural we had the shooting that was out there in Las Vegas, the worst shooting in the history of the United States. Yet another reason that we need to be prepared. I was listening acutely this morning, and when they were talking about it, there was one young man in particular that was sharing his story about how he was helping others in the midst of the challenge. Why was he and many others able to do that? Because they were functionally fit and had some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on the subject of preparedness. And when everything went bad, those guys were the ones that were out there helping others while others were taking cover. And we talked about the importance of this subject, and I'm really glad that you came here tonight. I know it's one where a few people might have wanted to dip out. They're like, he's going to talk about exercise. Maybe he's going to make us exercise, so we're not going to show up to this particular episode. So it is important. We talked about the need. What if that was your loved one who was injured and you needed to get them to the closest vehicle so that they could be able to get treatment, right? If you don't have the ability to carry them, if you don't have the ability to help move them, that puts us in a bad situation. So I believe that God commands us to be whole in spirit, soul, and body, or at least Scripture tells us that it is His desire that we be whole in spirit, soul, and body. There's obviously a responsibility on our part as well, and the body part is incredibly important. If we want to be able to do life and ministry for the long run, we need to take care of these bodies that God has given us. And thankfully, God's put some friends in our life who can prompt us. Tonight is not only about information, it hopefully is about application that leads to transformation, right? See, I know I'm guilty of it as much as anybody else. I could read every fitness magazine, I could watch every YouTube video, and then sometimes I do that while I'm eating my mint chocolate chip ice cream. Anybody relate? Come on, help me out, right? So this is really about learning, but hopefully learning for knowledge's sake, but then for application's sake, so we could take it beyond just this knowledge and get some tips of how we could put it into practice. We have a guest speaker tonight. His name is Eric Leister. Some of you may know him. He's been around for a while in this area. He's been active in the fitness industry for over 20 years, 14 of them professionally. He's trained hundreds of people, from professional athletes to rehab clients. His passion is to meld health and fitness, and it has been to help people realize they are capable of so much more than they ever would think possible. He transitioned into ministry and realized how closely aligned spiritual health and physical health really are, and how one does not determine the other necessarily, but how one can dramatically affect the other. He's married. His wife's name is Katie. She's a personal trainer as well. They have two children, Reagan and Harrison. Reagan is 2.5 years old, and Harrison is 6 months old. Would you give him a warm Journey Church Tactical Pastor welcome? Eric, we're glad you're here. Thanks for bringing the word to us tonight, brother.
Thank you, sir. Oh man, how's everybody doing? Oh, it's so good to be here. As Pastor Eric said, I've been in the fitness business for a while. It's funny because I joked around and said that I retired from fitness to go into ministry, and then I almost retired from ministry, and I'm kind of back in fitness now, and now I'm trying to do both. And I think that they are so closely related. And I think it's important to understand how important it is that we have a grasp of both things. And I think that it goes so far beyond the typical conversation. I had planned to come here and to have this lighthearted conversation and to make fitness something that could be fun and that could be at a lighter place than unfortunately where it is. I shared something else that Pastor Eric and I have in common, not just our names, but we were discussing how after the hurricanes we were cleaning up our yards and how exhausted we both got, and how we felt like we couldn't even do what we needed to do just to clean our yard, let alone actually, if things had gotten really bad, to take care of or protect our family. Where were we physically? And even for someone like me, that people might see me and say, well, you've been a trainer for a long time, you appear to be fit, you probably could handle yourself in that situation. It's two totally different types of fitness. The reality, I love the expression that Pastor Eric used, the functional fitness, and what is functional for your need. And one of the things we will talk about, and at the end, we'll open up for questions, and I love questions. You can ask me anything. Is understanding, and people say, like, what should I do? And I say, you need to do what meets the needs that you have, right? And I had planned to talk about all this in a very light way, and then something happened. A crazy person ended 60 lives and changed thousands more. And whatever the reason that they're going to come up with, it's not going to make any sense. It'll never heal the hearts, and it'll never silence the cries. And I wanted to quote scriptures that talk about our bodies being the temple of the Spirit, and how we have to take good care of ourselves, and how each breath and each day is a gift, and we have to honor God by honoring our gift, right? You honor the giver when you honor the gift, and we have to honor our bodies. And I wanted to talk about that, and that is so true, but my heart is so heavy. And I can't ignore what happened 2 days ago. And as a minister of the gospel, I believe that you came here tonight and you want to hear about what it means to be fit and how to live a healthier lifestyle, but it means so much more than just our physical being. One of my favorite books is the book of Ephesians. One of my favorite chapters is chapter 6. And I'm not going to go into the whole armor of God, because that's a whole sermon series in itself. But there's something you need to know about that. Chapter 6 was Paul's final instructions that he gave to the people of Ephesus. That was the last thing he was telling them. So before he was going to leave them seemingly forever, this was the last thing he said. And I don't know if you really think about that for a second. The last words, my parting words that I give you, and if it's going to be the last thing I ever tell you, it's probably going to be pretty important. So here's this great city, and here's Paul, and he says, this is the last thing I'm telling you. This is the most important thing that I have for you. He saved the best thing for last, and he said it's all about preparing ourselves for the attacks of the enemy. But how can we expect to armor ourselves? How can we expect to put on armor and to do battle, to protect ourselves from attacks and to protect our loved ones from attacks, if something as simple as cleaning up our yard after a storm puts us on our behind for a few days? Me too. I was raking the yard, and man, my back, I stood up, and my wife's like, what's wrong with you? I said, I don't know. So everything that I say, please understand, this is coming from a place of love. This is no judgment. I've been in the fitness business a long time, and I really genuinely care about helping people. I've worked with people who are, you would look at and say, man, that person's in the best shape of anyone I've ever seen. And I've worked with people who you would think, man, they've got it worse off than anyone I've ever met, and everybody in between. And I see everyone the same as someone who's trying to improve where they are, and all I want to do is help. So please understand, everything is said out of a place of love. So let's just take a deep breath and lower any guard that we may have, and just know where it's coming from, okay? We go through our lives and we act like we don't have a problem. We go through our lives and act like there are no consequences for the careless and reckless way that we treat our bodies, or the neglect that we show our bodies. We spend so much time taking care of insignificant things. My wife has a $100 case on her cell phone. So to make sure that her phone doesn't break. Now, my wife is a bad example because she's in better shape than anybody I know. But most people will get that kind of a case for their phone, and they wash their car once a week, and they wax it, and it's clean, and their house looks great, and this and that, and they neglect themselves. You change that oil in your car every 3,000 miles, but what are you doing to your physical self? We have a tendency to put ourselves on the back. We have a tendency to neglect. And it comes from a place, unfortunately, of, we could call it carelessness. A scripture I always come back to is 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. If you knew that every day, if I said, hey, when you guys leave here tonight, when you step out into that parking lot, there's a lion out there, and he's going to get one of you. Would that change the way that you walked outside? I hope so. I hope you're nodding your head. If you're not paying attention. It would change the way we lived our lives. We would approach every day with an alertness, with a readiness, with a preparedness, and that's what this whole thing is about. We go through our lives and we act like these things can't happen and these things won't happen, but they do happen. They just happened 2 days ago. 22,000 people sat at a concert to enjoy themselves and said, I can relax and enjoy myself because I'm in Las Vegas at a concert. What could go wrong? What could happen here? See, the devil uses every weapon at his disposal, and complacency is a big one. We get complacent because we live in the safety of the United States. We live in the safety of our home. We have, we sit in our home, we lock our door at night, and we set our alarm, and we go to bed, and we feel safe. But when the power goes out, when the storm comes in, when the water rises, we all probably know someone who was affected very recently by the hurricanes and the flooding, and they'll tell you stories that some of them say, I didn't have time to grab anything. It was grab my wife, my kids, and get out of the house. We had a minor bit of flooding. I don't mean to sound flooding like compared to what some people went through, but let me just tell you, if you haven't experienced how fast water moves, at 3:30 in the morning, I had about 25 feet between the water and my front door. At 4:30 in the morning, it was coming in my front door in 1 hour. And I don't live on water. It moves so fast, and nothing was going to stop it. Now, I can't imagine what happens when it starts pouring in through your windows and doors, and you've got to make decisions, and you've got to get out. Can you get out? Can you get your family out? This goes beyond, how do I feel when I go to the beach? How do I look in my bathing suit? Do my pants fit the way I want them to? This goes beyond all of that. This transcends the physical being. It's physical ability, but your spiritual walk and your physical life are so tied together. When you're in a good place physically, it enables you to accomplish so much more mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I've seen people who doubted and didn't think they had any ability to do anything, and they would set a goal for themselves. And you know what happened? They would hit that goal, and it was something small physically. I want to be able to do 5 push-ups. I'm going to tell you guys a story. I know there's people online. I will say this. There was a guy that I trained, and he told me, he said, I have a silly goal. And I said, what's your goal? No goal is too silly. And he had a hip replacement, and we were trying to avoid a second hip replacement. You know what he told me? He said, when I walk my dog, I want to be able to pick up the dog poop without using the little stick. That was his goal. And I said, all right, well, we'll work on that. About 3 weeks later, I trained him at 5:30 in the morning. 3 weeks later, he comes in one day, and he's got and he didn't move too quickly. He had a pep in his step, man. He comes in there, and he walks in, he gives me a high five. I said, he goes, I picked up the poop. And I said, it was the best thing he'd ever done. But you know what happened after that? Everything else got easier. The things he was struggling with in his life, in his business, in his work, in his marriage, all of a sudden, these things that seemed impossible to fix became very possible. It actually improved his spiritual life because he was struggling. He was so frustrated with what he had become physically, with his inability to do simple everyday tasks, that it was actually affecting his relationship with God because he was angry all the time. And when he stopped hating himself so much and he started to actually see himself as strong and as able and with an ability to accomplish things, he stopped being so mad all the time. So the devil will use complacency. He also uses arrogance. Because sometimes we think, man, I don't need to go ask for help. You guys didn't do that because you're here, and if you're watching online, you didn't do that either. But sometimes we think, well, Pastor mentioned on the weekend that there was going to be a fitness teaching or something, but man, I can just go to the gym on my own. I don't need to hear what somebody else says. I can read a magazine. Google is a personal trainer's worst enemy, because you can just Google, how do I lose weight? And Google thinks it knows everything. I love Google, but not in that context. And it's not, and I don't mean to say it's blatant, outright arrogance. I don't mean to say that people are walking around like, I don't need any help, but it slips in, and it's a quiet arrogance. Call it pride. Maybe you prefer that word. To think, I don't need any help. So we're going to go back to the analogy of the lion, right? If you guys ever watch the Discovery Channel, you watch those things where the lions are hunting. There's two gazelles the lions look for. Which ones? They look for the one that's all alone. That's the prideful one. Because that's the one that says, I don't need anybody's help. I can do this on my own. And the lion says, I see you over there. And he's just going to watch. You're by yourself? Okay, you don't need any help? I got you. The second one is the physically unable one. Now, it's the lame gazelle, the weak one. Now, the disadvantage for the gazelle is they can't do anything about it. The advantage for you is that you can. There's your warning. The lion is stalking. And if you sit there and you go, man, maybe I'm the lame gazelle. And guess what? You don't have to be. All you have to do is say, I don't want to be the lame gazelle anymore. I don't want to hear an excuse. I don't want to hear, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know how many surgeries I've had. You don't know how many doctors have told me I can't. People love to tell you that you can't. Nobody wants to tell you you can. I'm here to tell you that you can. You just have to try. And you have to believe just enough that you can. If I don't stay on I'll start preaching. I got to stay focused. I think it's so important that we connect and we do this together. One of my favorite, I mentioned Ephesians 6, and we talked about armoring up. So there's something I want to say. I think a lot of times we read that, and when we read that scripture, when that scripture is taught, we look at it in a context of we want to be ready for an attack, so we want to defend ourselves, right? We say like, all right, I'm going to put on the armor, I'm going to get my shield, I'm going to put on my helmet, I'm going to stand, I'm waiting for the attack. What I'm telling you is that you put the armor on and you be the one who attacks. You fight back. You don't sit back and wait to get attacked. If you want to take control of your life, if you want to take control of your physical well-being, of your ability to handle yourself in a situation, to be prepared in a situation, God will give you the strength to do it. Stop sitting around and saying, I can't, and just do it. My favorite element of the armor is the shield. And what I love about the shield is that the shield is the definition of community. The shield, I know Pastor Eric does a great job of preaching on community. It's one of the things I loved, in our time here. And my parents, Valerie and Charlie Leister, they go here and they're involved, and I love it. I've seen how their lives have changed because of community. And what I love about this element of armor, so have y'all ever, not that it's the best movie for me to reference, but you ever seen like Gladiator, right? And the movie 300, and they have those huge shields, okay? And the way that shield works is that's a big shield, and I'm going to stand. First off, it's really heavy. If I'm not physically strong, can I hold my shield? No. So number one, in order for me to defend myself, I have to be physically capable. I don't care how many push-ups you can do. Can you hold that shield and defend yourself, right? So my shield protects me, but guess what? There's somebody next to me, and their shield butts right up against mine, and our shields together become an impenetrable wall. And guess what? There's somebody standing behind me, and they're holding their shield like this, and you know what it's doing? It's protecting attacks that are coming in over the top. And so we have this wall of people around, but if one person leaves that community, there's a weak link. There's weakness in the wall. So when I start to get weak and I start to slip, the person behind me is going to brace me and they're going to push against me. They're going to say, you got this because I got your back. What my faith cannot cover, what my shield cannot cover, yours will. And when you get weak, my faith is going to cover you. My shield is going to protect you because we're going to do it together. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to wake up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, this is so hard because I'm doing it by myself. You don't have to do it by yourself. Don't do it by yourself. It's the hardest thing you can do. And I know people say, I don't want to get into semantics, and people say like, well, my faith is strong enough. I don't have to be physically prepared because God is going to protect me. Look, I am not saying that God is not a protector, but if you want to argue the fact that those 60 people that were killed the other night, you're basically telling me that none of them were believers because God didn't protect them. I don't believe that. The world is evil. The devil is real. And you have to be prepared. So what does that look like? There is no, if you have your pen out and you're ready, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give you a smoking gun. I cannot say, all you got to do is this. It doesn't exist. If it did exist and I knew what it was, I'd be a wealthier man. I'd still be right here because this is what I love to do, but I'd be a wealthier man having the same conversation. The biggest thing it takes is for you to believe that you can. The biggest thing that it takes is for you to stop saying tomorrow. For you to stop saying, man, I really need to do something. I really need to get in shape. So here's your action. You want actionable steps? I am going to give you some actionable steps. Number 1, set a goal. I'm going to tell you to set several. Set a really big goal, and then set a few small ones. Why? Okay, your big goal, I love when people have big goals. I love when people say, oh man, I want to lose 100 pounds. I want to do a triathlon. That's a great goal, but you know what? That's going to take time. And you know what's going to happen between now and then? You're going to get frustrated and you're going to want to quit. If you have a goal of losing 100 pounds and you lose 20 pounds, that's something you should celebrate, but instead you're going to see 100, you're going to see 20, that's not 100. And you're going to go, this isn't working. No, it is working. Set small goals that are in line with your big one. All right, that's the first thing, set goals. The second thing, come up with a plan. Your little sub point to that is if you don't know how to come up with a plan, ask someone who does. I just totally knocked Google a few minutes ago. I'm not saying ask Google, but there are hundreds of resources available. People much smarter than even myself that are professionals in the fitness field that love to help people, that are happy to help people. You can go to a gym. You don't have to. There's gyms literally, if you're from here to, I think my house in Fleming Island, you'll pass like 10. It's not for everybody. It doesn't have to be. When you, after dinner at night, eat dinner, by the way, eat a well-balanced meal for dinner and go for a walk. A 20 to 30 minute brisk walk after dinner helps your digestion and actually helps you burn more calories for the rest of the night. So, little trick. I'm not going to get into the nutrition side. You guys are having a guest in a few weeks who's a friend of mine and my wife's friend of our family's, and they're awesome. They're going to do a great job telling you all about nutrition. But nutrition is the third point, and it's the biggest. I don't care what you do physically for exercise. If you put garbage in, what does it say? Garbage in, garbage out, right? Yeah. I just see his kids over here eating McDonald's or something when I walk in, and I'm like, I'm telling you, I promise you this. It's like this past weekend, we've had a lot of craziness going on lately, and we needed just to have a little weekend. So we went and stayed. My in-laws live in St. Augustine. It was raining, so we were inside all weekend. And man, I did not eat good at all. I ate so bad, and I felt so bad all day yesterday. Your body wants to function as a high-performance machine. But a high-performance machine needs the right fuel. And I think about this, and I'm going to go back to Paul, and then I'll open it up for questions. But I think about this, and somebody one time I had this debate with someone, and they said, well, Paul was talking about spiritual warfare and faith as your armor. And I said, I don't disagree. I know that that's true. But Paul was also talking to a group of people who spent 16 to 18 hours a day being physically active and eating fruits and vegetables and fish. So he didn't have to have the conversation of, yeah, you should be physically fit also, because you know what those people did? They farmed and they herded, they were physically active. They could pick up a shield. You know why he didn't have to say, well, you probably should work out a little bit in order to carry that armor? You know why he didn't have to say that? Because they could. We are not like that. I'm not saying I could put on that whole suit of armor. I'd like to think I could, right? I have that, like, I could protect somebody, right? If something goes down, I'm gonna run behind Tyler or Pastor Eric. I'm gonna let them protect me. But that's what I got for you guys. I'd love some questions, so please, I don't know what the format allows for, but if we have Pastor Eric. So I caught him off.
Put your hands together and let Eric know that we love him. Thank you for sharing. So I have no doubt the group's going to have a couple of questions, but so say you're like me and you're half couch potato at the moment. You know, how do you move from kind of couch potato status to, starting to get plugged in and starting to get fit?
Okay, so I think one of the most important things, we talked about setting a goal, right? And when you set a goal of for a routine, let's say we said come up with a goal and a plan, right? It's like any destination, right? When you set a goal, that's where you want to go. If you want to take a trip, you're going to take a road trip. You put a dot on a map. You're going to come up within the map of how to get there. You're going to set your plan. But the biggest thing is it has to be realistic. Okay, so what I hear people do is when I was an active personal trainer, people would come in and I'd say, all right, well, how many days a week do you want to exercise? They're like, I'm going to exercise 6 days a week. And I'd look at them and say, no, you're not. Stop. Because the problem is that is a goal you will set, and if you fall short, you will consider yourself a failure and you'll quit. So let's be realistic. If I'm a couch potato and I don't exercise, if I worked out 2 days a week, that'd be a pretty big accomplishment, right? Start with 2. Because guess what? It's a lot easier to add 1 more to 3. And then if you do 2, and I mean, if there's 7, if you can't do 2, like you really need to evaluate your priorities. Say 2, and then when you do 2 for a month, guess what's going to happen? Those 2 days, you're going to feel great. Those other 5, you're not going to feel so good, and you're going to want to do more. It's like saying, I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon and I'm going to drive it in 1 day. That's physically impossible. You have to stop along the way. You have to rest. You have to eat. Same thing with fitness. You have to rest. You have to nourish yourself. But you also have to pick something that's realistic that you can do that's going to encourage you and not deflate you.
It seems there's a large spectrum of, price points that someone could get in. And I know you've got like Planet Fitness for like $10 a month. You've got, LA Fitness right down the street here, more like $30 a month. You've got places like CrossFit gyms that might be more $100 a month type price level. And then personal trainers that would be in the hundreds of dollars per month. Obviously, because you're getting that personal attention. Mm-hmm. I know from my history, just to be transparent, about 7 years ago, I approached Eric about getting healthy, and he really helped at that time. And for me, what tends to work best is when somebody's riding my butt and I have an appointment that I have to be at. So Eric would be like, you will be here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. And I felt bad if I would sell them out. So rain or shine, pain or no pain, whatever it was, that really helped me plug in. So I think you may be like that, or you may not. Maybe you're self-motivated enough where you could go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month and be able to do it on your own, but maybe keep that in perspective of where you need to be, either price-wise or also motivation-wise, to kind of keep that moving forward. I don't know if you have any comments on that, but there's a lot of different, and maybe not even just the traditional gym type of a setting. I know like Smiley with Combat Athletics and other places like that, there's a variety of other things people could do to get moving.
Yeah, so people say a lot of times, they're like, what's the best type of exercise? Like, what is the best workout to do? And what I say is the one that works for you, right? I don't like I'm old school. Like I started when I was 15 years old. My dad, I had broken my arm playing football, and I wanted to like start lifting weights. I was real skinny, and my dad's like, all right, so we went to Play It Again Sports. We bought this cheap bench and some weights, and he got me a subscription to Men's Health magazine. I started reading, and I started just pumping iron, right? I got the Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding encyclopedia. It was like my Bible back then, and I just started lifting weights. And so in my brain, like, I like the old school. I like lifting weights. That's just what I enjoy doing. My wife loves doing cardio. I hate cardio. Cardio is good for her. I need to do it too, but that's a whole other topic. You gotta find the devil, right? Yeah, cardio is the devil. The devil comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes he's a treadmill. Sometimes hope she's not watching. So
she is, by the way. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, hey, honey.
Hi, Reagan.
Yeah. So you got to find what works for you, right? Like the CrossFit. A lot of people like CrossFit. A lot of people don't. Sports, tennis. Something physical outside, going for a walk, riding a bike. But again, it's got to be intense. Here's the thing. Like a lot of people say, well, I walk 20 minutes a day. That is a great place to start. But let me just caution you, walking is your primary method of movement as a human. So its intensity as an exercise is not that high. People tell me I ride a bike, and I'm like, oh, that's great. How fast do you go? I don't know. I mean, like this, they're just kind of pedaling. I'm like, well, that's not, I could walk faster than that. That doesn't really count. And a bike is great if you have any kind of like knee problems or back problems, because it takes pressure. But just understand that on a bike, you're supporting your body weight on the seat of the bike, so there's not as much tension on your body, so you have to actually go a good bit further to get the same kind of a burn you would in a brisk walk. So there's a lot of different things you have to take into consideration. Even when you talk about gyms, like, when you look at gyms, evaluate what your needs are. Don't just go on it's a great point, but don't, like, you see a gym and you go, oh, it's only $10 a month. Well, if you need childcare, that gym's not gonna work for you because they don't have it. If you don't need childcare, that's a great place to start. If you need some professional assistance, that's not gonna work. Shameless plug, I consult for a company called Workout Anytime. What I love about it is it's $15 a month and they have personal trainers. Planet Fitness doesn't have actual certified personal trainers, and Workout Anytime does. You get 2 sessions when you join for free. The trainer will sit down and talk to you and find out your goals and try and help you establish some type of baseline. Then from there, if you say, like, I want to make an investment in my fitness, you can do that. But if you don't, you don't have to, but they're always there to answer questions. That's one reason that I agreed to work with them, is that there's a commitment to help. So any gym that has a trainer that's there that was willing to help you and genuinely help you is always a good way to go.
Is there any generalizations on a minimum number of times per week to really kind of see progress? I remember I used to run with an Army guy named John, and if it seemed like if you didn't run maybe 3 times a week, you were kind of huffing and puffing every time you were there rather than starting to advance. So each person's different, but is there any generalizations?
So depending on the activity, absolutely. Like any kind of weightlifting or anything, at least 2 days a week. You're always going to hear these things that say 3 to 5. From a cardio perspective, I would be one to say it's at least 3 days, but it also depends on what you're doing. Running, for sure. I think running to me is like, any golfers out there? Like, you pick up golf clubs and you play kind of regularly, and you're like, I'm pretty good at this, and you don't play for 6 months, and then it's like you never played before. Running for me is like that. right? Like I can run and I'm like, man, I'm getting good at running, and then I won't run for a couple months, and then I try and run and I feel like I'm gonna die. So it is different per person, but there has to be a commitment to an activity. You don't wanna, there's an expression we use called program hopping, where that person, that every time you see them, they're trying the new fad program. Oh, I read this, 6-minute ab program, and I thought it was 7. No, it's 6. Like they have these different things they try and do, and it's like you got to pick something and give it a chance to work, and give it due time. Don't say I'm gonna one day a week I'm gonna jog for 10 minutes and I'm gonna do 10 push-ups. That's it. That Eric guy said that I would see a difference. No, I didn't. What I'm telling you is that, like, set a goal you can do, but if you really want to see a change, come back in a couple weeks and learn how to get your nutrition on point, and then commit to 3 days a week of something active.
It seems like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I don't know if Bill Phillips was the guy who originally introduced it, but starting with those concepts of kind of combining weights with cardio kind of workouts simultaneously versus maybe the old school Arnold stuff where they just lifted weights and had pauses for long links. So again, I'm talking generalization. So is that kind of weight training where you're using, faster intervals or mixing cardio with it generally more effective in trying to reach, if it's a weight loss goal rather than a getting bigger goal, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's a loaded question. So you have, he's got good ones tonight. So all right, so here's the thing. There's an expression called periodization. What that means is that you take somebody when they start, and all you do is you address where an individual is, right? Like if I grabbed any 2 random people and had you guys come up here and evaluated your level of fitness, you're both gonna be in 2 totally different points. So we would start you in 2 different places. Why a trainer is so valuable, I'm just telling you this, not because I used to be one, but because it's true. They're gonna look at you and say, look, we gotta start you here. The downside about the Google and the magazines and even the Body for Life was Bill Phillips, great book, but if someone's never done anything before and they grab a pair of dumbbells and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do thrusters and squats and presses and I'm gonna run with these things, probably gonna end up in the hospital. Like you gotta work with what you can do. Ultimately, yes, the more muscles you can use in a movement, and you talk about functional, right? Here's the thing. The reason that I struggle picking up branches and stuff in my yard, I can go into the gym and lift weights for an hour, but you know why? Because it's stationary movement. I'll sit perfectly still like this and grab a bar and push it. That is not realistic for real life. I'm moving stuff out of my garage, and when I need to push a refrigerator, I don't stand there like this in front of it and go, right? I mean, I line up to that refrigerator and I start walking, but I have to, so you have to think about that too. If there's activities in your daily life you would like to be better at, you can mimic those movements in exercise, whether it be at the gym or whether it be at home, whether it be with a set of dumbbells. There's exercises called wood chops, for example, and you can use any kind of weight at all, and you literally, it's essentially like picking it up off the ground and putting it on a shelf, right?
If anyone wants to practice that one, I've got a lot of trees down at my house. I'm just saying.
So you've got a rotational movement, right? You've got forward movements. You can slam a ball to the ground. There's so many different things you can do. You can split wood, literally. There's so many things you can do that kind of transcend just traditional movements. It's got to fit your goal, and it's got to fit your fitness level and push you just a little bit. Like, we're not trying to take you, if your level's here, we're not trying to give you the workout that's here. If your level's here, I'm also not trying to give you the workout that's there, because that's not hard enough. We got to give you a little bit of a challenge. So we want to take some steps. Yes, sir.
Well, I've asked enough questions. Let's get them so that they could hear it. If you could please just speak into the mic so that the people online can hear.
I was an active member for the Y for 20 years. Is that on?
It's on. Just aim it towards you.
Oh, okay. And where I got my real results, and I spent 3 hours a day in the gym 7 days a week.
Whew.
Okay, and I did that from age 50 till 65. Where I got my real growth was I had an automatic program that they installed in the Y, and you took and registered all your progress, all your workouts. Mm-hmm. And then you came back in for the next series. If it was you went in Monday and you came back on Wednesday, they would step you up and you would go till you max that out, and then there was different what you were trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Were you trying to accomplish a great deal of strength
Yep.
or endurance or whatever you were trying to do, and they had programs along those ways. I did more in 3 years at the Y under a program where I was putting the input in and letting the program tell me what to do than I did in 15 other years working out.
Yeah. Well, and that's a specific program that's monitored and tracked. The machine was essentially a trainer. You know what I mean? It's that mentality of like but something that is giving you more to do. One thing that people get stuck in is they go into the gym and they get good at something and they'll do that same thing over and over. And they don't push themselves. They don't add a little bit more resistance or add repetitions. We see people do it all the time. There was a guy, I don't remember his name, it's good, I don't want to use it anyway. So this big gym I used to work at, there was this guy, and he would go to this treadmill, and when he joined the gym, he'd get on the treadmill, and he'd put the incline really high, and he'd hang on. First off, if you do cardio equipment, let go, all right? If you want to burn some calories, don't hang on for dear life. He would hang on for dear life on this treadmill at a high incline, and he was just going. He lost like 10 pounds his first month. So you know what? In his mind, he's like, this is it. All I'm going to do is that. His second month, he lost 1 pound. His third month, he gained 2 pounds. His body got so used to it, it wasn't challenging anymore because he didn't have anything or anyone saying, hey, let's step it up, let's change it a little bit, right? And he refused to do anything else. I think for like 4 years, he did the same thing, and his weight stayed exactly the same.
But can you speak to maybe logging, as he was saying? Do people that log, whether it's on paper or using MyFitnessPal or RunKeeper, do they tend to see better results than people who don't log?
Absolutely. Logging, food logging, and nutrition. So I've been literally exercising since I was 14 years old, 15 years old. I to this day, I use my phone now. I finally got with technology, and I track. I was walking around with like a notepad in the gym. I was the only guy in the gym with a notepad. So I use my phone now, and I enter in my weights and the repetitions for every single thing I do. And people say, they're like, man, you've been working out long. Don't you know what you're doing? Yeah, I know what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing that. Because I want to know, am I making progress? Because you know what happens? We forget, right? I don't know if that happens to anyone else. You forget. And you're like, how much did I use last week? How many reps did I do? I don't remember. This looks good enough. And you do it, and you're like, man, that was okay. But I'm telling you, like I was really heartbroken yesterday. I was talking to my wife, and I said, I pray like if something happens, like I can pick you and the kids up and like run you guys to safety, but I don't know if I could. So it re-incentivized me. I actually modified my workout routine a little bit, and I'm going to make myself run, even though I hate it. But
I pray you didn't tell her to lose weight.
No. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. Yeah, she's still watching. No, but like she said, no, I'll pick you up and run to safety. But you know my wife.
By the way, his wife's completed like an Ironman and things like that.
She's a beast. But like that mentality of like set a goal and be real deliberate and actually try and accomplish it. Are you making improvements? And it doesn't always mean like the number of weight you use, but like repetitions. If you told me that if you said I can only do a 10-second plank, that's all right. Now let's work towards a 15-second plank. Let's work towards a 20-second. Like it doesn't have to be, oh, the person on Good Morning America said you have to do 60 seconds. I don't care what they said. What is good for you?
So what are some of the popular logging tools or apps out there that people might use? I know of MyFitnessPal. Yep. Under Armour has a whole suite of them right now.
Yeah, to be honest with you, like if you go to whatever your what do you, Android?
Yeah, CrossFitters have Wodify.
You have your different. I don't even know what they're called, app stores.
App store,
right?
Yeah.
You go to like the different app stores and just search. You can search fitness apps. MyFitnessPal is one of the most popular. I like MyFitnessPal. The food logging portion of it is really accurate.
And you can share it with a partner.
Yes.
Maybe even talk about the role of buddies.
Accountability. We talked about doing this as a group and in community. You want to succeed, get a workout partner. I say that I work out by myself because I am a terrible workout partner. I've asked other people to work out with me and I'm just not good at it. So I always recommend that people have a workout buddy because the accountability, if I know that you're at the gym waiting on me, I have a higher probability to show up. Well, the funny thing is, if I actually show up, I have a higher probability of getting results. What do you know? So having somebody there, and then you can hold each other accountable and encourage and motivate and push each other. And with MyFitnessPal, it's kind of like you have Facebook friends. MyFitnessPal, you have buddies and motivators, I think they're called, and you can view each other's food log even. So if I tell you, man, I'm really struggling and I really want to go have a bacon double cheeseburger, and you're my workout buddy, and you're like, no, don't do it. Well, if we're workout buddies on there and I'm logging my food, you can see it. So I see you at the gym that night. As a trainer, it's a great tool, but even as a workout buddy, I can be like, man, I saw that bacon double cheeseburger. I guess we're starting on the stair climber today. Like, you got to kind of have those checks with each other, but it's a little bit of extra encouragement, and it's a accountability. People said the number one reason they would hire a personal trainer is accountability. They asked 10 random people, and 7 of them said accountability.
So what supplements out there might be legit, if any, that you might talk about? I know there's illegal substances that you could get real results to, but obviously we're not recommending that to those of you, especially online. Yeah. But is there any kind of, say, weight loss supplements, any brands that you trust maybe more than others?
Okay, so here's what I'll say. Learn how to eat healthy first. I think the problem is people go to supplements too soon and they don't learn how to do it on their own. It's kind of like, and I'm not, please, if this involves anyone in this room or anyone online, please, I don't mean this like, let's put our feelings on hold. If you have like a weight loss surgery, the problem is you don't learn a healthy lifestyle, so you may lose a bunch of weight, but the negative to that is as soon as you go back to living the way you were, you could actually put the weight back on. And it does a lot of damage to your body potentially. So I don't mean that negative to anybody, and there's special circumstances that it's necessary, and I'm talking in general terms, but you need to learn healthy living first, right? Vitamins, multivitamins, antioxidants are great. They're branched chain amino acids. I'm not gonna name brands because I'm not sponsored by anyone. So there's branched chain amino acids actually help your muscles recover after your exercise. They help you make it through a workout. They help your body synthesize and utilize protein to build muscle. And often times people have a hard time getting a high enough protein intake in their diet, so we usually recommend a supplemented protein. It can be vegetable protein, it can be whey protein, it can be, and I don't want to get too much into different kinds. I would stay very basic in the beginning, and then if you're struggling getting certain nutrients in from your diet, then take a look at supplementing from another source.
And I know in 2 weeks, Dr. Erin from Maximize Living and Bold City Health will be here, and she's going to do an entire session on nutrition. So I think that'll be a very important one. If you're online or here in person, if you're interested in the subject material, please be back here in 2 weeks. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Why don't we go ahead with yours first? Keep them brief because we're about out of time.
I talk too much.
Okay. If you're a true couch potato, isn't it easier to start out like when you watch TV on commercials, just going and like doing laundry or going and doing the kitchen while the commercial's going, and then they go sit back down, and the next commercial they go do something else, and starting like that?
I'm a true believer in just get up and move. So yes, if you literally do nothing physical, start doing something physical. Like it literally, I mean, if it's get up and play with your kids, if it's push your kids on a swing, if it's get up and fold some laundry, it can literally be, it just has to be something. And that's where it starts. And then you make a commitment to doing that, and you say, okay, well, I watch whatever show at night, so every commercial, I'm gonna get up for 2 minutes or whatever and do something physical. And after a couple weeks of that, and you've accomplished that, then you can set the next goal. So yeah, it literally, I tell people all the time, just get up and move. And whatever that looks like in your life and your circumstances, because at different times of your life, you can do different things. Yeah, absolutely.
Got 1 more question.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
You guys just talk straight into it.
Oops. Straight into it?
There you go.
Okay. I noticed that you mentioned antioxidants, and I understand their function and how they work in the body and with your health and everything. What about probiotics? How do you feel about those?
I am a believer in probiotics. I actually give probiotic supplements to both of my babies were emergency C-sections. so they didn't have the same access to probiotics that a normal delivery baby would. So we actually supplement both of our babies with an all-natural probiotic. I'm a big believer in that. Greek yogurt's an excellent source. It's great for digestion.
That stuff's nasty, though.
Yeah. No. Some of it, and you put some stuff in it, it's not that bad. I'm definitely believe in that. Do we have more time for one more?
One more, last question.
Well, I don't want to act like a sissy, but if you're new at this, what about water aerobics? I know people say that's a girly thing.
That's not for sissies. So I'll tell you this.
I just got over sciatica, and I'm gun shy.
No, hey, okay, look, water's great because it eliminates the impact, and I will tell you this in every bit of truth. When I was young and dumber, and in what I thought was in really good shape, I made this bet one time. I used to work at a gym, and I made this bet, and because I was only I was like 26 years old, and the only people that did the aqua classes were like older ladies, and so me and some of the guy trainers, we made this bet, and if we lost the bet, we had to do the aqua class, and we lost the bet, and we were like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. We were so tired. When the class was over, I literally went home and slept for 4 hours. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. It's a lot harder than you think. I think it's great. It's different than the norm, too. I think it's great.
I can tell you, many of you might know J.C. Calandro. He's been around the church for a long time. He actually started a diet and combined with, he's doing water aerobics and things of that nature. And he's lost like 40 or 50 pounds. He's loving it. He's feeling great. Would you guys give Eric a big round of applause? Thank you for being here. Thank you. I'm sure he'll be kind enough to hang around and answer a few more questions one-on-one if you have them. A couple of things. Next week's Modern Day Preparedness, the subject material is going to be finances for troubled times. So we're going to talk about some really cool stuff, traditional investing, God-first investing, and then some alternate investing that I would consider more defensive in nature. The week after that, we do have Dr. Aaron going to be here with the nutrition subject material. And in line with the material that we talked about today, we're preparing, the website is almost done, and we're going to be formally announcing that on January 7th, after our weekend services, we're going to be doing the Jacksonville Health and Fitness Expo here at Journey Church. So we're going to have a number of different vendors of this kind of genre, nutrition, faith, health, alternative medicine, things of that nature are all going to be here that day. So after service, you'll be able to go out, and we're going to be issuing a 12-week challenge at that time too that you can participate in, that we're going to encourage the whole church to get involved in. We're going to have prizes and giveaways as part of that, and we'll have some weigh-in opportunities every couple of weeks, and really just try to take this spirit, soul, and body thing seriously to help all of us get better together. That's what it's all about. And the spirit of this class too, to be equipped for every good work, right? That's what we've been talking about. So let me go ahead and close in prayer. Father, we thank you. We thank you for Eric and the word that he brought to us. It's timely and in season. May it not just be something that gave us knowledge today, although we appreciate that. For those of us who need that extra bit of motivation to get started and take a next step, may it be something that we do this very week. Might we wake up tomorrow and go for a walk, or go to a pool, or go to a gym and start to take those next steps that we need to get our life and our health on track in terms of our body. Lord, we can't thank you enough for your presence in this place tonight. We thank you. We love you. We honor you. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. To those of you online, God bless you. Thank you. Please like, share, and tell other people about it. Have a wonderful night. God bless you guys.